This gripping story takes you on an emotional roller coaster of love, betrayal, and redemption. It all starts with a single moment, a kiss, followed by a life-altering phone call that leaves a wife devastated and pushes her to file for divorce. Immediately, as secrets unravel and tensions rise, the husband must confront the consequences of his actions, while the wife fights to reclaim her self-worth. With shocking twists, heartfelt confessions, and a journey toward healing, the story keeps you guessing. Will they find their way back to each other, or is it too late to rebuild what's broken? If you're hooked and want to know how it all unfolds, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a moment of our captivating stories. Join us as we explore the messy, beautiful complexities of relationships, because every story deserves to be heard. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. It all started with a kiss. A simple, tender moment between a husband and wife that should have been the foundation of trust, love, and connection. But what happens when that same moment turns into betrayal? When the person you thought was yours forever chooses someone else over you in the most unexpected way? This is not just a story about infidelity. It's about choices, consequences, and the unraveling of a life built on promises. It begins with a man who had everything: a loving wife, a stable home, and a seemingly perfect marriage, but ended up losing it all because of one fateful phone call. And as his world crumbled around him, she decided to take back control of her life by doing something drastic: filing for divorce immediately. The couple at the center of this story seemed like any other ordinary pair navigating the ups and downs of married life. They weren't celebrities or influencers living under public scrutiny, but rather two people trying to make their relationship work amidst everyday struggles. He was hardworking, ambitious, and often busy with his career. She was kind-hearted, patient, and always put family first. To outsiders, they appeared to be happy, even enviable. Yet beneath the surface, cracks were forming, small fissures that neither of them wanted to acknowledge until it was too late. The tension simmered quietly, unnoticed by friends and family, until one evening when everything came crashing down. In an explosive confrontation, that night began innocently enough. Dinner was cooked, candles lit, and soft music played in the background. For once, he wasn't glued to his phone or distracted by work emails. Instead, he focused solely on her, pulling her close and kissing her deeply. It felt like old times, like the early days of their romance when every touch meant something profound. She let herself believe, if only for a moment, that maybe things could go back to how they used to be, that maybe they could recapture the spark they'd lost along the way. Little did she know, that very act of intimacy would set off a chain reaction neither of them could have anticipated. Just as the evening seemed to be heading toward reconciliation, the shrill ring of his phone shattered the peace. At first, he hesitated, glancing at the screen before silencing it without answering. But then it rang again and again. Whoever was calling clearly wasn't going to give up easily. Finally, after exchanging an apologetic look with her, he stepped out of the room to take the call. That's when the tone of the conversation changed. His voice dropped low, urgent, almost secretive. Though she couldn't hear exactly what he was saying, the shift in his demeanor was unmistakable. Something or someone on the other end of the line demanded his full attention, pulling him away from the warmth of their shared moment. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. By the time he returned, his expression was different, distant. Without meeting her eyes, he muttered something about needing to leave urgently. "It's work," he said quickly, grabbing his coat and heading for the door. But deep down, she knew better. Work didn't call at this hour with such insistence, and no professional obligation ever made him abandon her mid-evening like this. Her heart sank as realization dawned on her face. He wasn't leaving for work. He was leaving for someone else, someone more important than her at that moment. As the door slammed shut behind him, she stood frozen, grappling with a mix of emotions: shock, anger, disbelief, and worst of all, betrayal. What happened next might surprise you. Instead of crying or pleading for answers, she made a decision, one that would change both their lives forever. With trembling hands, she reached for her laptop and began typing. Hours later, she emerged from her room clutching papers that spelled out the end of their marriage. Divorce. The word hit her like a ton of bricks. Yet there was also a strange sense of clarity. For years, she had ignored the signs, excused his late nights, and convinced herself that love alone could fix whatever was broken between them. But now, faced with undeniable proof of his betrayal, she realized that staying would mean losing herself completely. Filing for divorce wasn't just an act of retaliation, it was an act of self-preservation, as the days turned into weeks. The fallout from that night became impossible to ignore. Friends whispered behind closed doors, wondering what went wrong. Family members took sides, some defending him, while others rallied around her. Meanwhile, he tried to justify his actions, claiming the mistress was nothing more than a mistake born out of loneliness and stress. But excuses didn't erase the pain he caused, nor did they bring back the trust he shattered. Every text, message, every missed call, every secret rendezvous added fuel to the fire, making reconciliation seem less likely with each passing day. Yet, despite the chaos surrounding them, questions lingered unanswered. Who was the woman on the other end of that call? How long had their affair been going on? And perhaps most importantly, why did he choose her over his wife in that critical moment? These are the pieces of the puzzle we'll explore in the coming chapters of this story. Because while the betrayal itself is shocking, the circumstances leading up to it are even more complex. Love, loyalty, and human nature aren't black and white concepts. They're messy, unpredictable, and often contradictory. And as we peel back the layers of this tangled web, we'll uncover truths that challenge our assumptions about relationships, forgiveness, and moving forward. For now, though, the tension remains unresolved. She has taken the first step toward reclaiming her independence, but the road ahead won't be easy. Legal battles, emotional scars, and societal judgment await her at every turn. Meanwhile, he faces his own reckoning, not just with her, but with himself. Will he fight to win her back, or will he continue down the path he chose that fateful night? And what does the future hold for both of them as they navigate the aftermath of a decision that changed everything? Stay tuned for the next part of this gripping story, where we dive deeper into the events that led to this heartbreaking moment. We'll hear from those closest to the couple, uncover hidden details about the affair, and explore the ripple effects of betrayal on everyone involved. Until then, ask yourself this: if you were in her shoes, what would you do? Could you forgive, or would you walk away? The answers may not be as clear-cut as you think. To truly understand how things spiraled out of control, we need to rewind a bit. The cracks in their marriage didn't appear overnight. They had been forming for years, slowly eroding the foundation of trust and communication that once held them together. In the beginning, their love was electric, full of late-night talks, spontaneous adventures, and dreams of building a life side by side. But as time passed, the realities of adulthood crept in. Bills piled up, Responsibilities grew heavier, and the excitement of those early days faded into routine. He became increasingly consumed with his job, often working late hours and coming home drained. She tried to keep the spark alive, planning date nights and leaving little notes for him, but it felt like one-sided effort. Over time, she started pulling away too, retreating into herself as loneliness set in. The mistress entered the picture during one of these low points. At first, she was just a colleague of friendly face who seemed genuinely interested in his work and offered an ear when he needed to vent. Their conversations started innocently, enough over coffee breaks or casual chats after meetings. But soon, those interactions shifted from professional to personal. She listened attentively to his frustrations about work and marriage, making him feel seen and understood in ways he hadn't felt in a long time. What began as harmless camaraderie eventually crossed a line, fueled by shared vulnerability and unmet emotional needs on both sides. Before either of them realized it, they were no longer just friends. Meanwhile, back at home, the distance between husband and wife widened. She noticed subtle changes in him, the way he avoided eye contact during meals, how his phone always seemed to be within arm's reach, even the faint scent of perfume clinging to his clothes. At first, she dismissed her suspicions as paranoia, chalking it up to stress or exhaustion. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. When she confronted him, he brushed her concerns aside, accusing her of being overly suspicious and insecure. His denial only made her doubt herself more, creating a toxic cycle of mistrust and defensiveness that pushed them further apart. The turning point came months before that night. While cleaning out his car one afternoon, she stumbled upon a receipt for an upscale restaurant to entrees. A bottle of wine, charged to his company card. It wasn't the expense that caught her attention. It was the date. That evening, he had claimed to be stuck in yet another mandatory meeting. Her stomach churned as realization dawned. He had lied to her. For weeks afterward, she wrestled with what to do should she confront him again. Hire a private investigator, or pretend nothing happened and hope it would blow over. Each option came with its own risks, and none promised closure. Then there was the mistress herself, a woman whose motives remained unclear. Was she knowingly sabotaging a marriage, or did she genuinely believe their connection could lead somewhere meaningful? Friends of the couple described her as charming, confident, and ambitious, qualities that might have appealed to him during a period when he felt stuck in his own life. Others whispered that she had a history of pursuing married men, using their insecurities to manipulate them into staying close. Whether calculated or naive, her involvement added another layer of complexity to an already fraught situation. As tensions mounted, so did the stakes. On the surface, their lives continued as usual. He went to work. She managed the household, but beneath the facade, emotions simmered dangerously close to boiling over. Every argument, every unanswered question, every glance at his phone became ammunition in a silent war neither of them wanted to admit they were fighting. And then came the moment that changed everything. The kiss, followed by the call. It wasn't just the fact that he left. It was the coldness with which he did it, the ease with which he prioritized someone else over her. That single act stripped away any lingering illusions she had about salvaging their relationship. But here's where the story takes an unexpected twist. After filing for divorce, she discovered something shocking: texts between him and the mistress that revealed far more than just an affair. They hinted at plans to leave town together, possibly starting a new life away from the wreckage they'd created. The betrayal cut deeper than she ever imagined, forcing her to confront not only the loss of her marriage, but also the fragility of her own identity. Who was she without him? Could she rebuild her life from scratch, especially now, knowing the extent of his deception? For him, the consequences were equally devastating. Losing her wasn't part of the plan, at least, not initially. He convinced himself that he could juggle both worlds, keeping his wife satisfied while indulging in the thrill of forbidden romance. But reality has a way of catching up, and now he faced the fallout of his choices. His reputation suffered, both personally and professionally, as word spread among mutual friends and colleagues. The mistress, sensing the tide turning against them, began distancing herself, leaving him isolated and scrambling to pick up the pieces. And yet, despite all the pain and heartbreak, neither of them could fully let go. For her, memories of happier times lingered, haunting her quiet moments and reminding her of what she lost. For him, guilt gnawed at his conscience, forcing him to question whether he had thrown away something precious for fleeting satisfaction. As legal proceedings dragged on and tempers flared, small acts of defiance hinted at unresolved feelings. A forgotten photo album unearthed in the attic, a voicemail left unheard, a chance encounter outside the courthouse that left them staring at each other, words unspoken but emotions raw. Now, as the story hurtles toward its climax, the central question remains: will they find a way to reconcile, or is the damage beyond repair? Can forgiveness exist in the shadow of such profound betrayal, or does moving forward require cutting ties completely? The answers lie just around the corner, waiting to unfold in ways neither of them could have predicted. One thing is certain: what happens next will redefine their lives forever. Stay tuned for the final chapter, where secrets are revealed, decisions are made, and destinies are sealed. As the final chapter of their story unfolds, the tension reaches a breaking point. The courthouse looms large in the background, a symbol of the legal battle that has consumed their lives for months. Papers detailing assets, custody arrangements, and financial settlements sit neatly organized on the table between them, but neither can focus on the practicalities. Emotions run too high, memories too vivid. Just as the judge prepares to deliver the verdict, something unexpected happens. A letter arrives, hand-delivered by an anonymous courier. It's addressed to her, written in a familiar scrawl. The letter is from him, though it's unlike anything he's ever said before. In raw, unfiltered words, he pours out his heart, admitting not just to the affair, but to years of neglecting their marriage. He talks about the pressures he felt to succeed, the loneliness that crept in when they stopped talking, and the moment he realized he'd made a terrible mistake. But most importantly, he apologizes, not just for cheating, but for failing too. Appreciate the woman who stood by him through everything. You were my rock, he writes, and I threw it all away because I was too blind to see what I had. For a moment, the room falls silent. She reads the letter twice, her hands trembling as tears blur the ink. Part of her wants to crumple it up and throw it away to let anger and hurt dictate her next move. But another part of her feels something stir deep inside, hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, this could be the beginning of redemption. After all, wasn't forgiveness one of the things they promised each other on their wedding day? Still, she knows words alone won't heal the wounds. He'll have to prove himself through actions, not promises. The mistress, meanwhile, disappears from the picture entirely. Rumors swirl that she left town after realizing the weight of the destruction she caused. unable to face the consequences of her role in the chaos. Some say she moved on to someone new, repeating the same pattern elsewhere. Others believe she finally decided to seek therapy, confronting the insecurities that drove her to pursue unavailable partners. Whatever the truth, her absence leaves a void that forces both husband and wife to confront their own issues without distractions or scapegoats. With the trial suspended temporarily, they agree to meet privately one last chance to hash things out before making irreversible decisions. Sitting across from each other at a quiet cafe, they talk openly for the first time in years. He admits he never stopped loving her, even when he acted like he didn't care. She confesses how much it hurt to feel replaced, to wonder if she'd done something wrong to push him away. They cry, laugh, and argue, unpacking years of pent-up frustration and regret. By the end of the conversation, one thing becomes clear. While the trust they once shared may be broken, it isn't beyond repair. In the weeks that follow, they embark on a tentative journey toward reconciliation. It's not easy. There are sleepless nights, heated arguments, and moments when walking away seems like the simpler option. But slowly, step by step, they start rebuilding what was lost. Counseling sessions help them address underlying issues, teaching them healthier ways to communicate and reconnect. Friends and family, skeptical at first, begin to notice positive changes. Even small gestures, shared meal, a heartfelt compliment feel monumental after so much pain. Ultimately, they decide against finalizing the divorce. Instead, they commit to giving their marriage another shot, vowing to prioritize each other above all else. It's not a fairy tale ending. They know scars from the past will always remain, but it's a second chance, forged through honesty, humility, and hard work. For her, it's proof that love can survive even the darkest storms if both people are willing to fight for it. For him, it's a reminder that true happiness lies not in chasing fleeting thrills, but in cherishing the person who truly matters. As the dust settles, they reflect on the lessons learned along the way. Betrayal taught them the importance of transparency and accountability. Pain forced them to confront vulnerabilities they'd buried for years. And forgiveness showed them that healing is possible even when it feels impossible. Their story serves as a powerful reminder that relationships require effort, sacrifice, and unwavering commitment. Love isn't just about grand gestures or romantic getaways. It's about showing up every single day, even when it's hard. In the end, their journey inspires those around them to reevaluate their own lives. Friends patch up strained marriages, siblings mend broken bonds, and co-workers resolve long-standing conflicts. What started as a tale of infidelity and heartbreak transforms into a testament to resilience and redemption. And as they walk hand in hand into an uncertain future, one thing is certain: they've emerged stronger, not despite their struggles, but because of them. So what do you take away from their story? Is it possible to rebuild trust after betrayal? Can love conquer all, or are some bridges simply too damaged to cross? These questions don't have easy answers, but perhaps that's the point. Every relationship is unique, shaped by its own challenges and triumphs. What matters most is the willingness to try to choose love over fear, connection over isolation, and growth over stagnation. Because, in the end, we're all just human beings, navigating the messy, beautiful complexity of life together.